Welcome back to Maintenance Minute. I'm Jim Vbrock. In today's episode, we're going to troubleshoot what may be wrong with this well and try to get the water back on for a young couple. Let's get started. Okay, so here's the scenario for today. This is a young couple. They're newlywed. They really don't have much money. They give me a call late last night after dark, and said that their water is off and need someone to come out and look at it. So they live close by and they're really good people. I'm glad to help them out. So what we're going to do here is troubleshoot this old well, give them a couple of suggestions on how to improve this scenario here, and repair what is wrong. So let's go inside and take a look around. Okay, the first thing let's do is talk about the different components that are in a well house. These places are dark, they're damp, they're creepy. This one is no exception. You're going to see spiders in here. You're going to possibly see snakes in here. It's really, really cold out. It's about 25 degrees. So I'm not too worried about any of those things right now. But if you got to work on one of these in the summertime, this area can be quite creepy. So the first thing let's start with is talking about the different components that you're going to find in the well house that you need to be familiar with if you're going to troubleshoot them. So what these are really is a miniature municipal water company, so to speak. So you've got all of the same components that you would have with your municipal waterworks. So for example, the water tower that you see standing outside is represented right here with the pressure tank. A lot of times they're blue or they're gray, and what they do is they create enough pressure to force the water through the pipes at home. So the water tower does this through head pressure. The water tower is really tall, and all of that weight of that water is up in the air, creating force as it comes down, called head pressure. That's what gives the entire municipality or city their water pressure. But you don't have that luxury of having a water tower, at least not in modern times, to supply your home. So you're going to have the blue or gray pressure tank over there. A lot of them will hold 30, 40 gallons of water. They operate off of a bladder system. Inside there is a balloon, and it has about 30 pounds of pressure in it. And when the tank fills up, then that bladder is pushing that water out. So that's how you get the pressure inside your house. In a different video, I'll show you how to check that, but very simply, there is a little valve up there, very similar to what's on your car, the tire valve on your car. You just simply use a tire pressure gauge to check how much pressure is in it, and if it's low, you can add pressure through an air compressor, just like you would airing up your tire. We're not going to do that today because we know that pressure tank is operating normally. So the situation is here, the pump's just simply not working, and it stopped working for unexplainable reasons. There wasn't a storm or anything like that. So we're going to troubleshoot that here in just a moment. But let's talk about some of the other things that are in here that you need to look at. Just off this direction is a pump control box. Inside of there is going to be a capacitor and a couple of other little pieces of electronics. You'll want to locate the capacitor because it is probably the second item that would fail in this scenario. And you oftentimes will see those, you can visibly see that those have failed because they'll either have black burn marks on them or there's a black tar-like substance trying to ooze out of them. Most of the time those fail due to a lightning strike or a strong power surge. We're going to look at those here in just a minute as well. The other components that you have in here is your pressure switch. And the pressure switch is right here. We'll look at that very closely here in just a minute. And then this is the actual well head. Down this pipe, a couple of 100 feet down, is about a 1.5 horsepower, sometimes a 2 horsepower pump, a well pump, and there's pipe that comes all the way up. The well pump has to be a very strong pump because it's pushing all that weight of water up into your pressure tank against all of that pressure, against gravity and the pressure of the tank. So that pump has to be pretty strong and it has to be in good shape. You will also see as we troubleshoot along, sometimes during a lightning storm or something, you will see the wires are burned way down in there. And that's an expensive repair because they have to pull the pump all the way up. Okay, the other thing that you're going to have that you're going to want to look at is your power cutoff. It's either going to be here in the well house or outside, like at a pole, something like that. So the first thing we're going to do is come backwards and take a look at all of these different components, and we're going to eliminate them as we go through here to find out which one is failing. Okay, I'm outside at the meter, and this is a really old box, and inside it you're going to find the old fuse types things in here. So one of the things I'm going to suggest to these folks is that we upgrade this and make this more modern with actual breakers in it. But what we need to be doing at this moment is checking to make sure that we have power here. So we do. There's 122 there. And there's 100, there it is, 122 there. So we have plenty of power here at the shutoff. And the way to shut this off is to just simply pull that lever down like that, and then you would not have power down on the bottom side. So where I tested it was from the feed side to make sure that we had it there. We can also check it down here again with the ground. So you have your 122 here, your 122 here. If one or both of the fuses was broke, then I wouldn't have power down here below this. So this tells me the fuses are good and that I'll have power inside the well house. So in this case, this is okay, not safe anymore, but we'll upgrade this in a later video. Okay, back inside the well house, we know that the power is good outside, so the power should be coming into here. So the first place that the power comes to is this little control switch. So what I want to do is check it out here in just a moment. But before we do, I want to show you the capacitor that's on this. So in this particular case, it's in a little box over here on the wall, and you open it up, and it has a components like this. There's a little electronic component. This is the capacitor. If this is bad, you're going to see that this is black or burnt, these wires are burnt, or there's a tar-like substance oozing out of this. This will not explode necessarily, but it'll start to leak, and that'll tell you that this is no good. Why these are important is we talked about that motor down at the bottom of the well a few minutes ago. It has to have, because there's all this weight, nearly 7 pounds per gallon of weight hanging above it, that it has to start and push up the pipe. So it has to start with that weight in place. So it needs a little extra kick to get started. That's what the capacitor does. It gives that motor a little extra juice to get started to pump, and then once it's pumping, then it can come relax down into regular pump mode. So here's the capacitor. These are not hard to change out. If they happen to be what's wrong, you just simply take them out. But I tested this one off camera, so I know this one is fine. So we can put this back on the box. Almost always, the culprit for a well not functioning is going to be the pressure switch. The reason for that is these are very damp locations, and there are electronic components in there that move. So they get corroded and they get rusted up, and then they simply don't work. So what we're going to do, I've got the old one laying here, but I'm going to show you this one. You simply unscrew the little screw right here, and then it comes right off. So this is electric. So what you want to do, have a voltage meter here, and hopefully you guys can see this. I'll try to prop this up where you can see it as well. But you've got your voltage meter there, so you're gonna put it on ground, and then you're gonna check. So I've got 122 and some change on this one, and the other pole over here, again, I have 122 and some change. Now I shouldn't have anything here or here, because if the switch was on and pumping, then you would have your the middle two would be working. So I know I have power to this, but nothing is happening. So that tells me this switch is bad. Now you can trigger these to test your theory. So here's the old one, and it's going to be in the open position when it's hooked up. So there's the open position, and you can take a screwdriver and just simply push that up and make it make contact. And if it does, when it makes contact, the pump should kick on. If it does, you know this is the problem. So be careful with this. This will be 220 volts. This will light you up. And if you are grounded properly here, it could possibly kill you. So this is not something for someone who is skittish around electricity. You need to have a little bit of experience if you're going to try to test that. But these contacts are the way that this switch operates, on and off. Okay, so last night I replaced this with a new one. And what you're going to have on the back side is a threaded nipple here. So the moment I twisted this to unscrew it, the old pipe broke, which made my challenge last night even greater than just simply changing the switch. So I had to go back to the hardware store and get a threaded nipple on each end, hook it into the backside of the pressure switch and the pressure gauge and the pressure switch. So I use Teflon dope, pipe dope, or Teflon tape. You could use that, but I like the liquid form of it. Tighten that down snug, not super tight because this is a brass fitting. It would strip out very easily, and hook your wires back up. Now, let me give you a little experience tip here. Take a picture of this situation before you start removing any wires. That way you know, you have a reference that you put it back exactly the way it was. We're dealing with 240 volts here. If you do this wrong, it's going to light up the breakers and make all kinds of noise and possibly arc. And if you happen to be holding it, of course, that's disastrous. So if you're not 100% comfortable with what you're doing, take the picture. Cell phones today are great for this. And then before you turn it back on, compare it. So once I turned this, once I rewired this, put the new switch in there, rewired it, it came on and operated perfectly. The switch was about $40. The little fitting was about $8. So I have $50, $60 in repairing this this switch and getting this well back up and running. And it took me about an hour to do, though. It took me longer to go to the hardware store and get the parts than it did to actually do the work. So this is a pressure switch that it turns on at 30 pounds, turns off at 50 pounds. If you were doing a shared well situation, you might want to do one that is 40 pounds on and 60 pounds off. Really doesn't matter. So while you're in here, just do another little performance check. Get the tire gauge out, check the pressure in the bladder tank, and all of this should be working perfectly. And for about $50, $60, you've got your well back up and running. And in today's times, these only last maybe 2 years, maybe 3 years, particularly in these high moisture environments. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to clean this out because I don't like all of the stuff in here. I'm going to clean this out. There's a bad wire over here I'm going to replace and repair. Other than that, we have fixed this well and they're back up and running.
Are you interested in woodworking or home repair? If so, please look at maintenanceminute.net. Hi, I'm Jim V. Brock, and I'm the host of Maintenance Minute. From my website, you can watch videos on how to build a variety of arts and crafts projects, full-on woodworking builds, and home repair and remodeling tips, too. We recently added an archive section where you can see over 40 years of projects that I have built. Please take a moment and visit maintenanceminute.net.
Okay, there you have our project for today. The well is up and running. We're going to make some recommendations to this couple about some things to make this well house a little safer and more modern and upgraded. And we'll help them do that as time goes on. So let's go find us another project to work on.